Welcome to the May edition of the Thrive Movement Community Guides interview series. And my name is Beth Myers, and I am a Law of Attraction empowerment coach, mentor, and speaker, and I'm the owner of Arrival Coaching. And I have a friend and a guest today that you're going to be getting the pleasure of getting to hear more about today with this interview. And I just want to tell you a little bit about the Thrive Movement. The Thrive Movement is really to help people explore and understand different resources and people that are out there that can assist you on your journey to thrive and not just survive in life. We have this one precious life that we all live, and being able to be in that mode of being joyful and having fun is what life is really all about. And so with the monthly interviews on the Thrive Movement Community Guides interview series, you get to meet some people that can assist you in different areas of thriving. So this month, May is focusing on emotions and how to thrive in and with your emotions. So I have my friend Lynn Dutrow, who is going to be joining us today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. But before I do that, I want to tell you how we met. We met as in the school system, and we both had worked for the school system, public school system, and I was a brand new counselor at a brand new elementary school, and Lynn was, I believe, a brand new school psychologist working in the county, and we got to work together for several years. And what a gift and a joy that was with our connection, and became friends and did some things together and collaborated. So it is just so wonderful to be together in our new journeys and adventures that we have been on. And so, Lynn, without further ado, I'd like for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Lynn Dutrow, and bringing back that time of being a school psychologist, it feels like a lifetime ago. But it's great. I have such great memories of all the wonderful people that I was a relatively young school psychologist, and how many people were just so welcoming, especially I want to say we were at Ballinger Creek, and just that was such a wonderful school. And I think when I first started, I had like 10 schools or something. It was so overwhelming, and eventually that worked its way out. But and just the connections and the lifelong connections that started there. So that's it's kind of nice to have that little walk down memory lane. So thank you for that. So where am I now? So after being a school psychologist, I did a couple different things where I did a modality called Brain Gym for a little while, and while I was doing that, I was also working in my parents' motorcycle shop. So I've done a little bit of a lot of things, but somewhere along the line, what people had told me, even from the time I was a teenager, was, "You're such a good listener." And so eventually I stopped fighting the universe and went back and got licensed as a licensed clinical professional counselor. My background was clinical psychology, and I actually took like all but one of the counseling classes for my master's to have been in counseling. But anyway, so I finally let the universe push me in that direction, and I worked for several years for Brookline Health Services here in Frederick in a couple of different locations, and ultimately in their outpatient here. And then 4 years ago, I said, okay, I'm done, working for someone else, and I went into private practice. And along that private practice journey, I started working with a coach, and in my first session with the coach, oftentimes people will say, well, what's your niche? Like, how do you want to narrow this down? And I have notebooks full of, well, should I do this? Should I do that? I was really sitting with it, struggling with it. And she looked at me and said, well, who do you like to work with? And I said, well, I really like working with people who have anxiety. I said, I live with anxiety every day. I've had my own journey with it, and I just really like anxious clients tend to be very intelligent. That's one of the things I like about them is, they think a lot. it's also one of the biggest challenges in working with people with anxiety is they think a lot. So I said, but every therapist out there, if you look at what they're doing, they list anxiety and depression. Those are pretty common. So everybody works with anxiety. How do you niche in anxiety? And she just, did that head cock thing, and she just kind of looked at me and she said, but everybody has anxiety. And it was this light bulb moment of absolutely, we all have anxiety. For some of us, it's just more of a challenge in figuring out how to keep our anxiety from being or feeling like an enemy and making it more into an ally, having it do its actual job and work for us rather than against us. So that's what I do these days. I call myself, or call my practice, anti-anxiety, and it's AUNTIE, because I love to play with words. I also infuse a lot of humor because that's the only way you can work with anxiety. You got to use the humor. And so I have a private practice. I see, I would say mostly teens. The younger folks, I work with parents of younger folks mostly. So teens, young adults. I love working with moms. Anxious moms with anxious kids, as I call them. And I actually do some business coaching too. I help folks, entrepreneurs, other therapists, work with their anxiety around business related and entrepreneurial types of things. So that's me.
Well, thank you for sharing the kind of the timeline of your journey getting to what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And just that awareness that you made with your coach, to acknowledge we all do have anxiety.
Absolutely.
You have your own special way that you bring that shift to assist people in dealing with that anxiety. So, what would you say are some strategies or processes that how you assist people in making progress with dealing with anxiety? What's your special modalities or?
Yeah. So when people, well, first of all, I love when clients have already checked out my website or my Psychology Database profile and then my website, because I'm still in the process, but I'm working very hard to help people see how I approach this. Because when people walk in the door and they think that I'm going to wave a magic wand or have a special technique that's going to make their anxiety go away, sometimes they're very disappointed because that's not how I work with it. For me, there's a very large educational component to the work that I do, and that is helping clients consider making the shift to this idea that you don't want to get rid of your anxiety. Your anxiety's job, your anxiety and fear and your fear response, their job is to actually keep us safe, to let us know when something is actually dangerous, to give us signals, to help remind us of things, or, but mostly the keeping safe part, that's the biggest part. And so you don't want to get rid of that. And so I do sometimes see people's look on their face like, oh no.
Right.
And then I say, it's hard work. When you come and you're working with me, it's going to be hard work. And if you're not up for that yet, but that's the main piece of this, is that we're going to understand how anxiety works. I'm going to help them walk through the fact that their anxiety is actually not afraid of any particular thing necessarily, but their anxiety is actually afraid of being afraid. They're afraid of the actual fear response. And so helping them, educating them about how it works. And I don't start off that intensely usually. It's more like, okay, so here's how your anxiety works. Your anxiety is like this socially awkward, annoying friend, kind of like a bully even. Okay? And what we want to do is we want to stop being the victim. We want to stop letting that annoying friend who thinks its job is to keep our world really small because it makes its job easier. we want it to, we want to let it know that we appreciate what it's doing, but that it's not in charge. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, yes. I
So,
love the visualization of connecting it, that metaphor, connecting it to that.
yes, yeah, yeah. So that's where I get started, and I, I spent a lot. I actually spent for a therapist. I spent a lot of time talking. So so for me, it is often a blend, depending on the client and what their needs are, certainly. But it's very much a blend of counseling and coaching when folks are coming to me with this from this perspective of being chronic worriers, and or because I work with the range, so I've got my chronic worriers and all the way up through generalized anxiety, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. It runs the gamut. So certainly it's tailored to the client, but pretty much everybody that walks in the door is going to get that educational component of how anxiety actually works, and start to give them skills and tools and exposure to getting used to sitting with that uncomfortable feeling. That's when they decide that they're not quite sure if they like me or not. It's when we have that conversation of, it's uncomfortable, and I'm going to ask you to be uncomfortable because that's the way that this works. So,
It's getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the only way through dealing with anxiety,
Yes.
fears, any of the uncomfortable emotions that we experience.
Absolutely.
And that's really where I feel that giving people permission
Mm-hmm.
to feel that and know that it's not
Absolutely.
a bad thing.
Absolutely.
There are no bad feelings.
No, there aren't.
They're comfortable or they're uncomfortable, and that's what I
Yes.
spent 31 years doing myself and as an
Yes.
educator and counselor.
Yes.
Did.
Yes.
We as adults a lot of times didn't get those messages when we were kids.
Right. Right.
And now it's an era of more understanding that, but reminding people of that,
Right.
helping them go into that uncomfortableness to be able to
Right.
come out on the other side with better skills and tools and coping mechanisms to assist
Yes.
in whatever that emotion is.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what there's a book. I love the title. It's The Upside of Your Dark Side.
Ooh.
And that there are others out there. That one, the title in particular, I like, and it's it's exactly what you just said, which is, as children, we tend to see things in as right or wrong, black or white, good or bad, right? We have to evolve past that. We have to get past that binary system that serves us well when we're children and our brains are developing and all of that to try to make sense of the world. But we have to we have to move and evolve past that to this idea that none of it's actually bad. It's just all opportunity. And sometimes that with opportunity, it's uncomfortable. That's what urges us to take a look at something, to make a change, to be aware, is that uncomfortable feeling. And we have to, specifically with anxiety, we have to be willing to recognize that the uncomfortable is part of the process, and avoiding the uncomfortable, pushing it away, just feeds it. It makes it worse. And so when we're willing to be open to the process of you're going to learn to be uncomfortable. That's the key component to it. Yeah. So
That's a beautiful way to explain it, and just that the learning opportunity,
absolutely.
emotion, and learning how to deal with the different emotions that we
Yes.
experience from different life experiences that we
Mhm.
have are just learning opportunities. They're
Yes, exactly.
not.
They're not bad. They're not mistakes. People say, I made a mistake. I said, then you've got an opportunity. There are no mistakes. There are only opportunities. What do you want to do with this now? Here's what it is. Now what do you want to do? What opportunity do you want to take from this? What opportunity do you want to make from this? Yeah, absolutely.
And what a more empowered way to approach life is by flipping it and looking at it from that lens.
Absolutely.
Really what coaching,
Mm-hmm.
counseling, assisting
Mm-hmm.
people to be able to shift that lens that they're
Yes.
looking at life through, and
Yes.
looking at the emotions that they're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing in
Yes.
a different way.
Yes. Absolutely. Reframing, exactly. We're going to get all cognitive, behavioral, technical there.
There we go. There we go. There's lots of ways to look at it.
Absolutely, and I love that, and that's what I love when I find a new word, because I may have been talking to a client using a word that's familiar to me, and they just kind of like, okay, and then so like one that I thought of last night during group is when I said the term that's popular right now of lean in. Because I'm always saying embrace your anxiety, embrace your emotions, and so yesterday with this adult group, and there was a couple new members of the group, and I decided to go with lean in, and I could just see, oh yeah, like I've heard it said that way. So I love it when you use these terms interchangeably, and you get a connection with someone that the light bulb goes off. They're like, oh, like I can relate to that.
Yes.
And then you get the buy-in. Then you get the, okay, now I hear what you're saying.
Right, because it's in the language that they're hearing at the moment.
Yeah.
Like being resilient. Resilient was a big word that was used. Building resiliency.
Right.
It's building that grit now. Grit is, building that grit to be able to, bring forth and feel that resiliency as you move through something that's difficult or challenging for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, you mentioned groups. Tell me about some of the groups that you do with adults, teens. Some of those.
Yep. So I call my group series Anxiously Empowered. So really focusing on, you have it in you. You have the power. We're going to find it, and we're going to bring anxiety into it, because you're not going to get rid of it. So I infuse that into everything. So I currently I have an adult group that's going, and they're from all different walks of life. It's been very fun to bring people. It's an ongoing group, so people come and go. And I don't really have to do a whole lot with that group. It kind of runs itself. These folks, especially the ones who've been in for a little while, they really find it to be very supportive, and they're very supportive of each other. And it's what they were sharing last night with this new group member was how much they appreciate just knowing they're not the only one. Right? That's a huge part of it. So my space now allows that I can bring these folks together. As a therapist, so often you're sitting there and you're thinking, gosh, if I could just introduce that person to that person, and not even like, I know it's happened like the dating thing, like, oh, if I could just, not even that, just, I think these people could really, benefit from conversation with each other. So my groups are very, I'm always clear, they're more coaching. So it's psychoeducational support. They're not therapy groups. You don't have to have a diagnosis. I don't even go there. Now, some of the folks are individual clients of mine, but not everybody is. They find me lots of different ways. So that's been really great. And I'm really looking forward. I have done a teen group, and maybe I did a good job of it, because in the spring, these teens who often, a lot of them had social anxiety types of issues, they all joined sports teams in the spring, and we actually stopped the group for the time being because I was down to one person. So I guess I did a good job. I don't know.
Yeah. So there's the social proof.
Yeah, there's the proof. So but I actually am in conversation with a couple of other therapists about expanding the group experience here specific to anxiety. So we're coming up with some really great ideas for a tween group, possibly elementary, where I'm not that one isn't as we're not as far along with that right now, but definitely a tween group and a high school age group. And then I also am currently running a anxious moms. I call it right now. I'm calling it, but it's all anxiously empowered. But I'm calling it Parent Like a Dutch Mom, and that comes from the books and the research about how much more life satisfaction and less anxiety countries like Holland and even Denmark that and so what is it about the experience? What is it about the attitudes and about how families function and how parents take care of themselves and the responsibility factors? And so we're sort of exploring, it's a support group. And so we certainly talk about, the current issues going on within the families of these moms that are in the group. But we're also looking at how different countries and different cultures look at parenting and how we might infuse some of those attitudes and skills to help with the anxiety that's so rampant here in our culture.
Oh yes, so rampant. You're exactly right.
Yeah. So I'm excited for the fall. Like as I said, I've got some things that will go through the summer. As far as my adult group will probably, and the moms group may or may not go in the summer. But I'm in the creative process right now for how the groups are going to look and when we're going to offer them and who's going to be part of that. Because as you and I want to say we led a grief group. My brain's trying to go back to to those memories, and I love the co-leading process.
Yes.
So that is one of the components that I'm looking into bringing in, especially for the younger. The adults, they're co-leading their own group. So, but with the kids, we've even tossed around the idea of a summer type of group to get middle schoolers prepared for not what they think middle school is going to be and the things they're actually worrying about, but what would be important to focus on for that transition. So lots of ideas, and it's all around working and on empowering folks to get out of this stuck place we are, and where anxiety is just over this big cloud over all of us, and empowering ourselves to actually live our lives. I love your thrive rather than survive. When we're stuck, when we're afraid of our own fear, we're stuck in that feeling that it's survival all the time. And it's time to get out of that. It's time to recognize that we don't have saber-toothed tigers creeping around anymore. And so while we still need that mechanism of our amygdala sending out the alert, so many of us have an amygdala that is sounding the alert when there's just a lot of steam coming out of the shower.
Yes. And
And so learning to distinguish, what's real and what's our thoughts, and our thoughts are not facts, and our feelings aren't facts. We embracing our feelings, but not taking them as fact, taking them and looking at them and deciding what's the message here, and what do I want to do with that message rather than being afraid of it.
I love that, the message that is being created.
Yeah.
Because that's what emotions are. They're messages.
Yes.
They're messages from our inner wisdom within ourselves.
Yes.
And
Yes.
being able to get comfortable, as we talked about earlier, with those messages that we're being sent.
Yes.
We can then make that choice. What are we going to do? And we can choose to stay stuck. We can choose to stay stuck right where we are, or we can choose to something that feels better and it leads to a better result than what we have been getting.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I love what you're doing, Lynn, and the different ways that you have been embracing your gifts and talents and bringing that forth in many different varied ways in not just the mental health community, but in the coaching area as well, and combining that.
Yes.
Because I think there's a lot of power in being able to address things from that mental health end, as well as from more of the coaching end, which is let's take what you have here and what are you working on and how do we get you from here to there?
Yes.
And help bridge that gap.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I love that part of it. I love the coaching, the accountability, the support, the fact that coaching clients don't seem to mind that I run my mouth so much, So, but But it's
education. There's education.
You can't do this work without the educational component. So the traditional idea of, how do you feel about that, and nodding your head and letting them do all the talking. It's really hard for me to sit and watch somebody describe the temperature of the water when they're drowning. They're just, that short term, let's get in there, let's get you out of the water, or at least closer to the shore, and figure this out and teach you some skills so the next time you're in the water, you know what to do.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and there's so much empowerment in that, in the moment, with being able to be with somebody in that and helping them learn that they can shift very quickly and pivot in that moment to the shore. To a safer feeling, better feeling emotion. And, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, is what do you love about what you do? And I think you just spoke to the coaching aspect of that. Is there anything else you want to add to why you love doing what you're doing with anti-anxiety and your business right now?
Yeah, I just love the connection piece of it. I see myself, that comes from the Malcolm Gladwell work of, I don't even remember what the other components were, but there's people that are more, sort of the idea people, or the leader folks or whatever, and I see myself as a connector. So I read all the time. I just absorb so much information all the time, and I love when I can then share that information, connect people to other resources, and connect them within themselves, help them to start making those connections with their emotions, their connections with their thoughts, and how to get that mechanism to work more effectively for them. And just watch them start to light up, watch them get excited, get motivated, be willing to sit with the uncomfortable, so even some of my more challenging clients that, maybe come in, and at first, it's hard to get them in the door.
Right.
and it really is. And I have to give them, thumbs up, high five. You made it in here. If you don't think you're courageous, you are. You actually not only contacted me, but made it to the chair in the office.
Yeah.
And, the ones that even talking about some of the things that trigger them, I have clients that will, have that kind of response. And when you sit with them, and you don't rescue them, and you don't reassure them, which is what they're used to, but some part of them knows it doesn't work. Reassurance just doesn't work. And you just be present to them and watch them decide to be willing to sit with that uncomfortable feeling and not false comfort themselves out of it, but then watch it dissipate on its own, and just watch them start to light up and recognize, okay, like now I'm starting to get this. I'm starting to feel it in my body, and I know that I can do this. That empowered piece. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
So that's why I do this. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I know that about you, but I feel it in just what you just shared, because that is, to see that light go off for them.
Yes.
And just feel it in our being of, hey, I just helped assist this person to be able to feel that.
Yes.
And that's, it's empowerment on both ends.
Yes.
and a light being shared from both people.
Absolutely.
And that connecting. Again, it goes back to that
Absolutely. Connecting. I love it. I connect.
I do. Well, that's why you and I always got along.
I agree.
Me as well.
I agree. Absolutely.
Oh, goodness. Well, it sounds like you have some exciting things that are going to be coming up in the Frederick area. Now, one question, do you do coaching just in person in Frederick County area, or do you do virtual coaching or counseling as well?
I do virtual coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I am open to counseling. The way the laws work, counseling, the other person has to be a resident of Maryland, which is where I hold my license. And even with that, I tend to I tend to reserve that for folks who either are very functional, and or someone that I have, like college students, where I have a relationship, an in-person relationship with them, and then are able to continue that when they're away at school. And again, as long as there's no safety issues, that sort of thing. So yes, I do. So the coaching piece of it, though, I have a lot more availability to do the online. And yes, I do do online coaching with folks wherever they are.
Awesome. I know that's the beauty of the internet and the technology that's available today. It's just made. I work with people all over the world with the connections that I have through the coaching program that I work with, as well as my own personal practice, and it gives me hope for our world, because it shrinks the world to a community. You get connected within different communities of people online, and it makes you feel good to know that there are people that want to make things better, that they are working on themselves, because any change we want to see in the world starts with us.
Oh, absolutely.
Us embracing ourselves, our own light, and our emotions, and being able to shift when we have an uncomfortable feeling, moving to a more comfortable feeling, moving from that back part of our brain, that reptilian part of our brain, where the amygdala is firing, being able to come to the frontal part of our brain, its lobe, to think through things differently, look at it differently, then take different action. Let's go into, Lynn, how can people get in touch with you? That they want to learn more about anxiety, would like to join one of your groups, would like to get in touch with you for individual coaching and or counseling. How can they get in touch with you?
So the best way to check me out is my website, which is anxiety.com. And so my website is under a little bit of construction right now. So if you follow a link that doesn't go anywhere, or there's something missing, I've just got it hidden right now while I'm doing some work on it. But there's enough information there that you certainly will get a gist of how I work and what I have, some of the offerings that I have. And while my phone number is on there, I will go ahead and tell you the best way to reach me, because when I'm with clients, I can't answer the phone. So I end up playing a lot of phone tag. So I found that the best way is by email. So you can reach me at ask@antianxiety.com. So
Thank you very much for sharing that. And do you have events on there of like when you have upcoming groups, or if somebody wants to join?
There will be. That's exactly, those are part of what I'm working on. I believe that my adult group page is up right now and running, and has the information on it that's current and correct and all of that fun stuff with all this technology that you got to keep up with. So yeah, that is all there. And as I get information ready for what's going to happen in the fall, and if anything's going on in the summer. So actually, what's not on there right now is about my mom's group. But so if anybody's interested in my mom's group, they can just connect with me and let me know that they're interested, and I'll give them the details of that.
Okay. Awesome. Well, lots of exciting things going on, and I can't wait to see some of the other things that you have coming up here in the near future, and to refer people to come and see you. And are your groups online, some of them, or are they all in person right now?
Right now, they are all in person. I am actually working with another practitioner with the idea that we are going to put a curriculum together for an online women's empowerment group, anxious empowerment group. So again, as soon as I have the details of the what's, where's, and why fors and all of that stuff, it'll be up on my website. Perfect.
Well, Lynn, it has been a delight and a pleasure spending time with you today for our Thrive Movement Community Guides interview series with Lynn Dutrow, Anti-Anxiety, aka Anti-Anxiety. The interview was really diving into emotions and how we can thrive with our emotions.
Mhm.
If you would like to join in on other community guide interviews, they are the third Thursday of each month, and each month has a different focus as to what area of life we'd like to thrive in. So enjoy the interview with Lynn and I today, and then I hope you join us for next month's as we talk about thriving in another area of life. My name again is Beth Myers. I'm a Law of Attraction Empowerment Coach, mentor, and speaker, and I am the owner of Arrival Coaching. And I thank you for being here today. Again, Lynn, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Yeah, it was a great conversation and reconnection.
Yes.
All right. Well, everybody take care and have a fabulous day.